Hi, everyone. You're watching 123 Conversations. I'm one of your co-hosts, Candace Thomas. I'm an intuitive coach, and I'm joined by my other co-host, Terry Dean, who is a creative entrepreneur. She also has 30 years in sales and marketing experience. And we are joined by our fabulous guest, Janice Moranz, MD, medical doctor at the end. So Janice has over 30 years experience helping her clients regain health, which leads to people having more energy, which leads them to having a more fulfilling and satisfying and meaningful life. And Janice has found that the way for people to achieve these great health moments to get to optimal health is actually through achieving an optimal weight. So we're going to talk to her all about that today. First, I just want to say thank you so much, Janice. We're really excited to have you here. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm doing really good.
And that's not good. That's not one of the three questions. That doesn't count.
We always go way over three questions, so don't hold us to the count of three.
Right. And for those of you who might be watching, sorry, go ahead.
Could be 1, 2, 3 plus.
Yeah. Oh, it's always
1, 2, 3 plus. Exactly. And for those of you who don't know, because I get questions like, are you asking like 123 conversations? Like, no, our show is 1, 2, 3 conversations. And it originally started as we would talk about one topic with two hosts, me and Terry, and we would ask each other 3 questions around that topic. And it just kind of evolved and grown since then. But our name is still amazing. We love it. So Janice, thank you again for being here. I think one of the things I wanted to ask about when you say that you help people achieve their optimal weight, which involves weight loss for sure, but I know a lot of people struggle with that. What is the reason that so many people have so much difficulty with achieving their optimal weight loss in general? Like what is the biggest challenge or difficulty where people can't maintain it or do it that you've seen?
Of course, it's very individualized, lots of different reasons. But I think one of the main reasons is that a lot of people don't know exactly how to eat right. Mm-hmm. No one really teaches them. And if you do, and you use the pyramid that they, used to use with the bread and the grains, all on the bottom, and they weren't necessarily whole grains, they were processed. So they're not really taught how to eat right. And in addition, there's so many things that draw your attention like a shiny object when you're at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And, it just looks, that would be great to try. And you pick it up and not thinking about the nutritional value or not value that it might have. And then, of course, all the fast food stores, places that we have, which you can even eat healthy there. But of course, if you're really trying to eat healthy, most times you won't even go to a fast food place. But it's all out there, and it's so hard to resist unless you have good reasons and you have the education to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think people really, some of the things I've learned even over the last couple of years is understanding how to read labels better. Mm-hmm. And it's like, holy cow, I had no idea of the carbs that are in that or how many grams of sugar. It's mind blowing. And I'll tell you, you mentioned grocery store, and somebody taught me years ago. I had a friend that was a personal trainer, and she goes, stay out of the aisles, to just work the perimeter of the grocery store, because that's where you find the things that are more nutritional. And then too, I think when we go in the aisles, just like Janice is talking about, you see something and it's like, oh my God, those look so good. I should get those. And then, you throw it in your basket, and then if you're not looking at the label, it's just horrifying later on to go, oh my God, this thing is loaded with bad crap for me. So,
I even video about, I went to the grocery store and had someone tape as I went through the grocery store and told people, here we are in this department. Here's what to look for. Here's what to avoid. So I have a video about that. Yeah, because it is.
Super helpful. Yeah. And I'm sure that that's super helpful because I'm that kid that grew up on pot pies. All we could afford were the 6 cent or 9 cents after the coupons, the pot pies. And all the vegetables were coming straight out of the can, and it was like Dinty Moore. And, we're going to have some Jolly Green we're having green beans tonight, and the Jolly Green Giant is providing those. Who is the Jolly Green Giant anyway? Right. It's like, no, food comes out of the ground. We don't eat our vegetables necessarily. Nutritionally, it's better to get the food straight out of the ground. But I never grew up with the education around the nutrients in food.
Sure.
And focusing on
me either.
That kind of eating. So it's been really.
What did you have for breakfast? A bowl of cereal?
Gosh. Probably a bowl of cereal or whatever was cheap and easy. Pop-Tarts.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, oh my gosh, I can't talk. I can't say too much about my mom and some of the things she likes, because she does watch our videos and she'll kill me, but she still to this day.
Hi, Mom.
She's cute as a button. She's really fit. She moves around. The woman lives on Diet Coke and Coke. And I'm like, oh my God, Mom, that's so scary to me. But I remember being in high school and I would have little white donuts, those little sugar donuts, and a Diet Dr. Pepper. That was my breakfast in high school. I remember.
Yeah. When I was in college, my breakfast was the Mountain Dew. I would buy those huge cubes, and I was like Mountain Dew every day. And I started to get really bad, severe breakouts and stuff. And just like, I wasn't feeling very well. Like I was wired. Like that was, I never really, I don't really like coffee, never got into coffee, but I had a Mountain Dew phase, and that was intense.
You're lucky you have teeth.
I know, right? I am lucky I have teeth.
All of that.
It's amazing to me that we all survived all of that.
Right.
It's really bad. And you do it for years, but I think when you're young, your body can compensate.
Yeah.
Probably so.
But what we're talking about it makes me think about like fast food. One of the reasons that people do fast food or like canned stuff is because it's cheaper. So do you have people who want to be more healthy? And you've got a video, so everybody check out, and we'll link below where you can check out Janice's videos where she's helping people figure out, hey, here's how to be more conscious about what you're buying. But for people who maybe can't afford to do fresh fruits or vegetables, or maybe it's a challenge to get to an area like that, do you have any guidance or tips for people who are really on a budget about how to be more healthy or be more mindful about where they're eating that, that might also take into consideration the financial piece of it?
Yeah. Well, one thing is, the thing that makes a lot of fresh stuff expensive is when they're organic. And that's great if you can afford it. If you can't, it's okay. Just, wash them well, peel them, get all the fertilizer or whatever they use, off of it. Another thing is the stuff that is canned and the stuff that is frozen. If it's a vegetable or a fruit, it's not that bad, but you do want to read the label. You don't want any added sugar. You don't want added salt. And if you're doing fruit, the juice is usually the part you should get rid of, and have the fruit. But you could actually, do pretty well eating healthy and even losing weight with things that are canned if you watch for what's in there.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. That's good to know. Because I made a conscious choice to move away from canned stuff altogether when I got older. But yeah, all right, nice.
I have very few cans in my, pantry, where I used to have a lot more. But if you can't afford the fresh stuff, you could make do with that as long as there's not a lot of sugar or sodium.
How do you feel about frozen veggies?
Yeah, frozen too.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are frozen. They don't do things to them except freeze it.
Okay.
And
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Ingredients. Yeah.
But I was just double checking since we have the expert here with us.
Right. So I also want to touch on, before we hopped on to this and started filming this video, you had said something that really stood out to me, and that when someone comes to you and they have this goal of losing weight, reaching their optimal weight, and ultimately reaching their optimal health, that you really take the time to talk to a person about like what the reasons have been where they haven't been able to achieve it before. And then you said, I don't work with someone if their goal is to lose weight for somebody else. And I wonder if you would elaborate a little bit more on the kinds of motivations that might be toxic to people, that aren't really good, about the reasons why people lose weight or want to achieve optimal weight.
Mm-hmm. So it really goes along with the same thing I do, like as a dermatologist. Somebody wants Botox, it's why. Mm-hmm. And if it's because my husband doesn't like my wrinkles, and if it's the weight, you say, well, my mother keeps nagging me about it, or my husband says, I'm getting too heavy. The reason that that's not a good reason is it's not motivating enough. And that actually can make people go the opposite direction. I had a friend who, when we were growing up, teenagers, she would make brownies at her house. And she would eat like the whole thing, except for 2 that I ate. And she would ask me to tell her mother that I ate them. Like she was going to believe that, But she always was heavy because she kind of wanted to go against, what her mother wanted, of course, as a teenager. So sometimes it can have negative effects. You want to do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. You want to do it because you want to be healthy. You want to be around for your children and your grandchildren. You want to be able to live your life with more freedom about your body, mm-hmm. and not being afraid to step outside and have people see how you look. But it's for yourself is always the best reason. And we try to explore, not even like, oh, I just want to lose weight because I want to fit into my clothes better, but go a little deeper. And what's the real reason? Because if you don't have a really good reason, the chances are if you do lose weight, you may gain it all back because you're not going to stick with the program.
No, wow. There's so many layers, I think, to why there is weight gain. And then, we know better, mm-hmm. right? And we know better. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like I have a super sweet tooth, so I can't have sweets in my house.
And people like comfort foods.
Right.
And for some reason, comfort foods are not the best for us.
Right.
But there's so many things you can do to make a food better for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And just getting in that mindset from the get-go and mm-hmm. really working with people to uncover the reasons behind it. I would imagine that would make the effectiveness of some of the programs that you're working on with people just like that much more successful.
Oh yeah. That's what we do it. That's because good. What's the point of losing the weight if you're going to gain it back? That's what almost always happens. Well,
right.
Not what I want to do for people.
Right. Right.
How do you work with people if they do have that person in their life that is not supportive of their journey, whether it's sabotaging, because I've heard from some of my friends the opposite, where it's like, and it's like stereotypical Black family, but it's like, I remember when I visited my mom's side of the family, it was like, you're skinny, you're not eating enough, you look sick, here, have some, and it was cliche, but that's really how they were, where it's like soul food, which is tons of like delicious, it's all delicious and wonderful, but it's like fried and like lard and all sorts of like not healthy for you type things. And I can just imagine that if you were in a situation like that, then probably everyone would gain lots of weight. And if you wanted to not live that way, then it might be challenging. So, and even if the opposite, if you have the mom or the spouse that's like, you should lose weight because you're not attractive, and then that counterintuitively puts a person down and shakes up their confidence and their faith in themselves, which makes it harder, it doesn't help. Like, how do you help people who are in those situations with unsupportive family? What did they do?
Well, there's a lot of different things, and then we always look into that because, is it the husband? Is it you? Are you afraid to give this good stuff to your kids? So, for instance, when you have something fried, if you grill it or bake it, it's still really good. And, make a sauce, but not necessarily a cream sauce. So there's a whole lot of things you can do to take a recipe and really make some changes to make it much more healthy. And usually, I've heard so many times people will make a new dish and they're surprised that everyone in the family actually likes it. And it doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'm sure that there's stuff they don't like. And so you could try another recipe. The other thing is you only have to really eat healthy like 80% of the time. So 20% of the time, it's okay. If it's somebody's birthday, you can have a piece of cake. So, it's not like you have to be all or nothing. And if you do have a piece of cake, you can get right back on the good stuff, immediately the very next time you eat, the next meal. So it's not like you have to be strict all the time. And you have to also think about giving yourself rewards for doing. Now, usually it's better if we can find a reward that's not a food. But even if it is, if you're only doing it, a small percentage of the time, it's okay.
Live your life, right?
Yeah. And then, like with your kids, usually if the family's together, it's at dinner time. So you could do a healthy breakfast or lunch for yourself. You could do smoothies and you don't have to even, cook. And, but then when you get together for your meal, there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to teach everybody why this is good or not good. And then they have that they'll learn that. They'll have that for the rest of their life. They may never have to go, thinking about how to lose weight. Maybe they never will have that problem.
Right. It's teaching the kids too, right? Just like what you're saying, it's grilled chicken breast, if you're a meat eater, is satisfying. Doesn't always have to be, fried chicken, right? We grew up on a lot of fried chicken too. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And just the other day, for the first time, I saw there was almond flour.
Okay.
And my husband made this dish that we love. It's like a lemon chicken. And this time we used the almond flour to bread the chicken.
Okay.
And then we fried it in a pan, like sauteed it, but we use olive oil.
Okay.
So, you can just make these changes that really doesn't have an effect on the taste. It's still really good.
It's just being conscious. It's conscious eating.
Totally.
And be mindful of labels and ingredient and, nutritional value. And there's so many, just like you're talking about, so many delicious foods that we have access to, thank God, that are also nutritionally sound and delicious.
And mindfulness is very important. That's one of the other things that I teach. You have to think about what you're eating instead of mindlessly eating a whole bag of potato chips.
Right.
And I think journaling helps with that to make you much more mindful.
Too, Janice, you talked before we got on the call, you talked about the 3 components that are really important to you. And I think that would be something really valuable for anyone listening, if you could go over that with us again.
Sure. It's the 3 C's.
Okay.
Content plus consistency equals confidence. So the content, you could say that's the education part. That's where you have to learn about foods, what makes them okay and not okay. And once you get that education, you you're good because now you know what the heck you're doing.
Right.
The consistency is sticking with it as much as you can. Like I said, 80% it would be fine. And so I always have people journal what they eat and drink and their exercise and what times they do that, so that I can see, that there's not 8 hours in the middle of the day that they haven't eaten anything, and then they're starving and they grab whatever there is to grab. So that's the consistency part. I've had someone who their journal was like, oh my God, this is horrible what they're eating. And then in a few weeks, their journal, it was like it was somebody else writing it because they had learned. And so now it was hard to find anything to even, help them change because they were already doing it.
Nice.
And once you know what to do and you do it, then you do lose the weight. And if you continue it, you keep it off, and it gives you confidence so that you feel good about yourself. You start to be in love with your body instead of hating it or, trying to hide it or, something like that. So it does really give you that confidence to go out in the world and to be more successful at doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Can I also ask, what's the typical length of time that you're seeing it takes your clients to change patterns and change behaviors? Or is there a typical, when someone's working with you, I'm sure it's different with every person, but is there like a kind of middle of the road average?
Not really. But the thing is, since we start from day one with the journal, and I can immediately give them suggestions for making different choices. And sometimes it's people want to just like make one choice at a time, one change at a time, and that's fine. But when they have that down pat, then they can do another change.
Right.
And it becomes, a habit that it's not a problem anymore. It's not something they have to think about or wonder about, or, they know now how to do it. So it just depends, like sort of how many things or how many changes they want to make at a time. Okay. Some people do a lot. Some people want to just do, one thing at a time. And then it takes longer, but that's okay.
As long as the long-term effects and results are effective, then that's really the measure of the success probably for your program. It's like if you're taking whatever, it's losing the weight, getting more confident, or just, understanding foods long term and not just, working with you for 30 days or 3 months and then just straight back to the bad stuff.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of pressure with that, where it's like, no, you will do these 5 things now.
Right.
And then people operate from that. And I feel like that goes back to Janice, what you were saying. Who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for the coach so you don't get yelled at? And then when you're out of the program, you just revert because you were traumatized. Like everyone is so different, right? And certain people might do really well when you have an aggressive, so I'm not bad mouthing or bashing that, but with like the aggressive, like mean to you coach in your face that's like, no, you will do. That might work for some, but other people might need something that is a little bit more nurturing, at their own pace. So I really like what you're saying, that you're not dictating, hey, you will do these things by this amount of days. It's just a lot of pressure that people put on themselves when you probably will stick with something. I don't think it is, it isn't, like, let me change this one thing. And then when I have that locked down and I've integrated and internalized it, sure, I'll do something else, and not being made to feel like this is not enough. You'll never get there. You know what I mean? Like, I like what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one woman that I worked with, but and she lost the weight that she wanted, but then she didn't continue. And a couple years later, she said, I think I need to work with you again. And she did like a little testimonial for me, and she mentioned like sort of like my sort of gentle pushing, trying to, yell or, belittle someone, because it doesn't. So she remembered that, and that's why she wanted to work with me again. So we're doing that.
Nice. The velvet hammer approach. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
That's kind
I
of
love that. The velvet hammer. Yeah.
I used to have go ahead. No, I'm not. I won't tell the story. All I was going to say is there was one of the kettlebell instructors that I just adored years ago, and a yoga teacher too. I had two different people. And we called them the Velvet Hammer because their voices were so soothing, and you're like, I'm trying to do another deadlift. Oh, I'm dying, or one more press, or one more down dog or whatever, and it's like, they're killing you, but you don't even realize they're killing you because they're asking you in such a kind, sweet way, and you want to please the teacher, and then you get like, I cannot walk. So yeah, it's like, okay, velvet hammers. I've had two of those instructor wise in my life. So,
and I'm glad the exercise part, because I think there's a misconception that in order to lose weight, you have to spend 5 hours a day in a gym. And you don't. 90% is what you put in your mouth. 10% is the moving. And it doesn't have to be hard. If you want to lift weights, you can. But just walking, if you did that 30 minutes, 3 times a day, 3 times a week, that would do it. And then you can always add to it. But that's not that hard. And you can start it slowly, 10 minutes, 3 times a week, and then add 5 minutes to that. So you're at 15. It's just that, we know that movement is good for our body, because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
So, you want to, of course, do movement, but it can be dance. It can be walking your dog. It can be listening to music. It doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be hours and hours a day.
Right. Yeah. Right. Nutrition is critical.
Yeah. Right. Your nutrition is your fuel. And it's important. What you put in your car is pretty important. It's just like even more important what you put in your body.
Right.
Yeah. I have some of my friends, they can't really go for, just because of other issues, can't walk for like 10 minutes would be a lot. But I noticed that they will do whatever works for them. So sometimes it's like small little, the weights, like upper body type stuff, movement can help. But yeah, I like what you're saying. So how do people get a hold of you? Go ahead, sorry.
Have to sit on the floor and put their legs up on the wall and just walk up and down. That's sometimes all you can do, because maybe your back has a problem, but we can find something.
Right. Cans of vegetables.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a pound a piece. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
There are things we can do if we just have to work with what we've got.
Right. So how can people find more information about you? Like, what's your website? How do people get a hold of you if they might want to work with you or learn more about your programs?
So probably at this point, I have a new, I do have a new website, but I don't think I'm in the process of having people help me get it up and running and stuff. But you can always either email me and Janice Moranz at Comcast.net, or call me or text me. And my number is 505-417-3787. And that's why I give it out, because I want people to be able to find me if they feel like they're serious about regaining their health.
Fantastic.
All right.
Yeah, we'll make sure we add that in all of our show notes to make it easy for people.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right on.
Yeah.
And Terry, how do people find you if they want to know more about your creative entrepreneurship or
anything
there's so many things that you do. Yeah.
The multitasking queen of the universe. LinkedIn is great. Terry, Terri, Dean, Dean, or on any of the Fem City websites, or you can drop a note in any links where you're finding this video, and I'll respond that way as well. And Candace, what about you?
I just have to take a pause. And multitasking queen of the universe is how I'm going to introduce you from now on. Heads up.
No,
you can find
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm inviting more in that way.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So,
Oh,
so you can find me. My website is CandaceThomasIntuitive.com. I just joined Clubhouse at Candace Thomas on Clubhouse, and I'm going to start doing some talks about intuition and all those things there. And of course, if you want to send me a direct message, I'm on Instagram at Candace Intuitive, CANDICE, Intuitive altogether on Instagram. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Janice. You have a very great day. Again, we'll have more information in the show notes about how you can get a hold of Janice and Terry and I.
Yep.
And cool, we will see you. I trust we will see you next episode.
Yay.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, Janice.
1, 2, 3, 4.